Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Evelyn E, your girl, Miss Plus World America 2020. And I am so excited to have an opportunity to have an amazing conversation with a beautiful woman. You're going to hear some amazing things in this conversation as we talk about the then, as we talk about the now, and everything in between. So without further ado, what's up, girl?
Hey! Oh my gosh, it's been forever. Okay, so I'm Tasha Haskins, and I was the former Miss Plus America in 2010. That's how I met the beautiful Evelyn E. And I'm currently now the Ms.Curve Washington, and I will be competing for the title of Ms.Curve US of A in about, 5 weeks. So
Oh my
I'm
goodness, right on the
super
corner.
excited.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Well, I am excited for you too. So we are going to have some amazing conversations and kind of do some catching up. So I'm excited to chat with you. But before I ask you my first question, I got to know, you look amazingly beautiful. Is that fan blowing in your hair? I mean, the wind and everything, because I'm like, whoo, let me know.
So yes, I 100% have a fan going. But it's not for what you guys think, like for real. This is because I'm 40, about to be 50, and life has changed. I'm on blood pressure medication. It's great. Apparently, it's hereditary. My mom's like, "Oh, that happened to me." I'm like, "So when were you going to prepare me for like hot flashes at 39?" So actually, it's just so I don't spit out and sweat this entire interview. Although the extra hair blowing does kind of add a nice effect, but that was more so a bystander of me trying to not sweat my life away.
I love it. Well, you're making 40 look fabulous. So I love it. All right. So are you ready? Because I got some questions for you, girl. And I know you got some for me.
I
All
do.
right.
I do. So where are we starting? We're starting
Let's
2010, like the then type. Yeah.
let's rewind. We're gonna rewind 10 years ago. I can't believe it's been 10 years. So my first question for
Oh,
you.
wait, hold on. Were you like 10 years ago? Because you look great.
See my face? See my face? I was not two. Okay.
Were you old enough to have done anything 10 years? I'm just kidding. Okay, let me stop. All right. Yes, ma'am.
But
I'm ready.
you know what? Anyways, focus. But seriously, no, just thinking back on that time, right? And 10 years ago. So, my first question for you, love, is what made you want to start competing in pageants? So, I don't know if MPA, Miss Plus America, was your first pageant, or what compelled you to want to start a pageant journey?
Oh my gosh. Okay. This is kind of funny because I was an athlete. I played basketball since I was 5 years old and had zero interest whatsoever in anything that was the beauty industry. I wasn't a tomboy, but I wasn't like, I didn't have think about any of that. And so anyway, I did somehow get recruited into modeling in the early 2000s. And again, that was shocker for me because growing up, I did not think I was attractive. I was like, I look just like my dad. Perfect. I'm a male. And so that blew me away. But through that, someone saw me model and they asked me if I would be a judge for a girls pageant. And it's called National American Miss, one of the largest, if not the largest, young person's pageant there is in our country. And so there was like 400 kids there that were absolutely amazing. I'm judging, and there's like 4-year-olds with like, nonprofit organizations to support their autistic brother. I'm like, what am I doing with my life? I was like, wait a minute. This child, this preschooler is way more, efficient than I am in life. Perfect. So I was like, I wonder if there's anything for me because I done the modeling thing, but I have a voice and I have things I want to share about. So I started, of course, the only pageant I knew for adults was Miss America. Matter of fact, when they asked me to judge, I thought I was judging Miss America because I thought that was the only pageant that there was. They were like, no. And I started Googling. I'm like, oh, Miss America. And I saw the swimsuit section and I saw like all the winners and then I saw must not have ever been pregnant or had children. And at the time I was a single mother of 2. And I'm like, perfect, don't qualify. And so I thought, well, if there's plus modeling, maybe there's plus pageantry. And so I did put in plus pageants just to see what popped up. And immediately the first thing that popped up on Google was Miss Plus America. I was like, I'm doing it. And I was 27 at the time. Didn't have much support. People that were close to me were like, I felt like that scene kind of from The Color Purple when Celie was trying to leave Mister and he was like, yo, you ugly. So like my family member, people were like, you're big, you got 2 kids, you can't do a pageant, you know. So I was like, yes, I'm gonna do it. And so yeah, that's kind of what led me to it. And I found out very quickly that modeling and pageantry are way 2 different things. And I did my first competition at Miss Plus America, and I was second to last place in my division. Actually, I think in the whole pageant, out of all the divisions. And I threw a fit as well. We don't have to talk about that. But anyway, I did. I literally threw my tiara in the back room. Anyway, don't judge me. That was a while ago. That was 12 years ago. But yeah, so that's kind of what led me to the pageant world.
Awesome. Gotcha. Interesting.
So that's a good segue because we both have questions for each other. This is like a very interactive interview. And I want to know, like, what, I mean, other than being gorgeous, fabulous, and all these other aesthetic, amazing things about you. And, you know, but like, what made you want to compete that year? Like, what even, like, got you to do that?
That is a really cool question and very, very similar to your answer. And growing up, I was that sports person too. I hid behind my insecurities and struggles by being a tomboy, right? So I was never interested in, if it didn't have anything to basketball, you couldn't tell me that I was going to be a part of it. But very similar as well, was competitive. And so I did like a pageant when I was in high school. Never thought I would win, but won. And so that kind of gave me a taste of pageantry. I was the honey queen, the honey queen. So every girl wanted to be the honey queen where I grew up in Kentucky.
Yeah, I could see that.
I was truly humbled by that opportunity and experience. I never thought I would win because I never, felt like I was anything that was associated with beautiful, especially growing up in a community that culturally I look very different. So standards of beauty was not, natural brown, natural hair, brown skin, was very different. And so that gave me the taste of pageantry and helped to build my self-esteem. And so fast forward, like 10 years after that, that's when I was introduced to Miss Plus America. And it was a push from my mom. If I can be completely honest, I would have never probably put myself out there. But she's like, oh, she's always told me like, oh, you're so pretty. And, you were the honey queen and you can do it. And okay. And so I was just like, why not? And so I think it's really at that point where I traded in my sneakers for heels and like, okay, let's see what this adult pageantry it was like. And so competing in, first as Miss Plus Ohio, and, won that title and then was super excited to represent the state of Ohio in the Miss Plus America pageant. And, I never, was my first time in an adult system. And there were so many beautiful women and all I wanted to do was just do my best and hopefully that landed somewhere. And so I was very humbled when I received the title of Miss Plus America Elite and just a very life-changing experience that helped me to really love who I am and like not allow myself to be defined by somebody else's standards and expectations. So that is more so the why I did it and like what it's been like for me. So great stuff, good stuff. Awesome. So thinking about that moment, right? Because you know how Miss Plus America is. And so when I was crowned, I didn't get to see your crowning moment. Like I didn't get to see your crowning moment, but I've seen the amazing pictures of you looking super fabulous. So my question is, in that moment, I think you're like this and it's like super unbelievable. Did I do a good job? Like, oh my goodness, is this happening? I just want to know like what was going through your mind when you heard your name called?
Yeah, first, that was the year I won was my 3rd time competing.
Okay.
And so I'd already been through 2 times of not having my name called. So when they did, I was just like, I mean, it was exhilarating. It's one thing to feel like you're good at something. It's another thing when a panel of people feel like you're good at something and they choose you. So to finally be chosen was just like, whoa. And that was like the top 10 or 15 moment. But when I was standing there in front of Allison and I'm looking at her and I'm gonna be real with you, I was like, oh my gosh, she's a tall, gorgeous white girl. We in the South. I'm not winning. Like, okay, at least I was first runner up. I went from last place 2 years ago to first, cool. And so when they named her first runner up, I was like, And the impact, though, is funny because I think people probably thought I was like really just giving a shout out to God, which I was, but about a little less than a year prior to that, my father passed away suddenly in his sleep at the age of 49. It was not a planned thing, nothing we foresaw. He had a genetic heart condition we didn't know about. And so that whole year preparing was for him. So really I was looking up and just like dad, like daddy, I did it. Kind of both daddy, like daddy God and daddy, I did it. And it was intense because I wish he could have been there. My father was one of those type of people which I don't want to go into that actually right now yet. But, just it was for him really. And when I was preparing, actually, I am sure everyone in the plus world, if you don't know who Nanette is, then you probably haven't been in the plus world, pageantry world. And I noticed a trend that her twins were winning. So I did invest in training with her prior to that competition. And the majority of it was really just tapping into the why. We did some shopping and modeling and stuff, but really it was like, Tasha, this is for your dad. And it was very deep. And that just changed my whole mindset. I've been a competitor as far as athletics my whole life. And I was like, Dad, this is for you. And I think that's really what the game changer was. But as far as in that moment, I was just like, Dad, oh. And I'm sure he had the best seat in the house looking down on me from heaven.
Of course. And I know he was just, so proud of you. And so I appreciate you sharing that because that really sheds like a picture and a frame for that moment. And I loved what you said about talking to both daddies, but I know your dad is just like, look at my girl. And then of course, that's so cool. You talk about the different layers and the experiences, that being your third time and having that opportunity. We definitely love, Mama Minette, the queen maker. So that's just awesome. I love it.
So now I would love to know, so I know that Mom kind of was your motivation for competing and encouraging you after making Honey Queen, which is such a fitting title for you. I feel like that should be an alias or something for you in the present. The Honey, I feel like if you called yourself the Honey Queen, no one would even fight. But they'd be like, absolutely, Eve is the Honey Queen, okay? So that might be a thing. Anyway, but I wanted to know, how did you prepare? I know you did the state preliminary, but how did you prepare, even leading up to being on that national stage, to compete?
Wow, I think prayer, and definitely a lot of encouragement and support needed, that I received from my mother, who has just been. She's an inspiration to me and has always been one of the biggest cheerleaders in my life. And also, as an attorney, she's sharp and she's, she has a competitive side to her. And so I give a lot of my preparation and my success, to God, of course, but certainly he used her as a vessel to push me. And so it was definitely, finding the dress that, made me feel beautiful or, finding those outfits that allowed me to show grace and elegance and it really just taking her leadership and her direction. She would be like, I know you don't like this hairstyle, but this is pageant hair. This is just what you have to do. And I'm like, but really, I don't think. Now I don't know what she says about my blondness because I just changed it all the way up. But then it was truly under her direction and leadership that really helped guide the way. And so it's so funny because I chuckle with her now because I remember as I was preparing and when it was pageant week and we had the preliminaries and I'm like, oh, I might make it. What do I do? How do I make sure I get this? Because she was pouring so much into me. And kind of similar in your situation, she sacrificed so much to help shape me and push me and help me to believe in myself that I just wanted to make her proud. And I remember in our hotel room, she was like, if you win or lose, I'm already proud of you. And it was that moment where I don't know, I found a different love for myself. And it's like the win for me was showing up. The win was being there because it was so much sacrifice. So there's a lot of things that I feel like I really had to do to prepare, but most importantly, just trusting the journey and listening to my mommy.
Love it.
Yes. All right. So last question from me from the then is, what would you say was your favorite part of your reign as Miss Plus America 2010?
I loved being able to educate people on the concept of plus and curvy and just being a woman. It was a really good talking piece. People will be like, plus, like, you know, I even had an interview on TV where she was like, you shouldn't be Miss Plus America, you should be just Miss Normal, you know, and being able to really educate people on what that meant and that it's okay to be, you know, not just who you are, but even who you are physically, aesthetically. You know, it doesn't necessarily, you know, there isn't a, you know, size definition and all that kind of stuff. But it was just, I love just kind of existing in the role because people were just inspired by just seeing me. I remember one of my most fun appearances was at LA Fashion Week. And I remember Kelly Price was there, and she came up to me and was just like, girl, that's a plus beauty queen, you know, and it was, of course, I'm kind of like, you're Kelly Price. She's like, you're Miss Plus America. And I'm thinking, I'm kind of in awe, but she's looking at me because I'm in all the glory, right? You know, like, can I take a picture? And I'm like, you're Kelly Price, you know? And so, but it was just really cool to that even, you know, women of, you know, prestige that are curvier women. She's had her own, you know, health journey, but has still always been a curvy woman to actually be like inspired by me wanting to take that role, because in a, you know, title holder role, you're not just visually, you have to actually speak and care about people and you know, influence. So it's more than just being a pretty face. And so that really was a cool moment for me, but knowing that the impact of just my kind of existence in that role just made a big difference and inspired a lot of women.
Awesome. I love that. Kelly Price is the bomb. What's your favorite song?
She's so laid back.
I wish I could sing.
But I just still was tripping me out that she was like, and I'm looking at her like, well, actually it was more like this because she's super short. But
awesome. That's so great. What a cool memory.
Absolutely. So I have my last question for I'm going to pull out my little notebook, so I was going to be cool and act like I memorized it. Kind of like, I guess after that winning moment, you know, what was your headspace? Like, okay, this is what I'm going to do with this. You know, like what were your next steps kind of in your mind, and how did you want to use that elite opportunity?
You know, that is a really interesting question because my self-esteem at the time was probably a low. I didn't expect to win. Like, I didn't think that was going to happen. I was just kind of happy to be there. And so, you know, when I think back on that moment when I was crowned, it was literally like, oh my, did I just hear my name called for that? Whoa. And then it was just like, I immediately started praying because I'm like, okay, Lord, every woman up here is worthy of the elite title. And so you picked me. Oh my goodness. Okay. Here I am. And so it really was, I wanted to be a vessel. I didn't have this strategic plan. I didn't know necessarily what direction I wanted to go in. I really wanted to just be led by him. And I remember at the time, you know, connecting with, you know, the director, Melissa Stamper, the creator and the founder, you know, of MPA. And I'm like, I just want to make you proud. Like, I'm new at this. And like, I just want to be everything that you need me to be as your elite queen. And I remember her just, you know, emailing me back and pouring into me and saying, like, you know, she was thankful and that, you know, she was already proud of me. And oh, by the way, you're going to go in a couple weeks, you're flying out to New York to be on the Huckabee show. And I'm like, what? Oh my goodness, right? And so that probably was the first taste of, wow, this is something big and something powerful, and what really unique opportunity, and how can I use it? So flying to New York and, you know, going to the airports and seeing somebody holding up your name because you had a chauffeur, and being in, you know, hotels, and then, you know, being on the show was just, it was so surreal for me. And although those moments were magical, being, you know, in New York, I got to go Love Your Body Day in LA. And so just traveling all across the country, I think for me, the journey was, I just want to inspire somebody else. I just want to, you know, help young girls understand who they are, understand their worth and their beauty, and accept that that is just kind of was my main focus. And those were the memories that were so profound and really is what guided me on my next steps after I was crowned. So good stuff.
I love it.
Woo!
Before we transition into the kind of in between, I just, just for old time's sake, wanted you to give kind of the little last part of the answer to your final question during finals, because that was like super like classic and historic, and I just think that you should do it.
I should give my final answer?
Yes. Do you remember what you did?
To my question?
Yes.
Like, the answer was?
In finals 10 years ago. Do you not remember your final answer? Like
I
at the
do.
end. I think that you should do it.
Okay. You really put me on the spot on this one. Okay.
I know, but it was the best chant ever, and I was like, did she just make up a rendition to, okay.
My final on stage question on stage was the question was, do you think that children under the age of 17 should be required to get parental consent before getting a tattoo? That was my question. And my answer was, yes, I do think that children under the age of 18 should be required to get parental consent before making such a very permanent decision. Thank you. It was something like that.
I'm kind of mad that you sounded just like that, but so that was, I think, your preliminary question, but in finals, it was something around plus size, and all I know is that you had the entire audience saying, say it loud, I'm plus and I'm proud.
Gotcha.
And I was like, it's a wrap, like literally you were just like, say it loud in your whole gown, glamour and everything. I'm plus and I'm proud. And I was like, is that okay? And the entire audience was in it. But anyway, I thought that was super cool. And you just, that was, wow. So,
flip-flop. I think that was my preliminary question.
Was that your preliminary? Are you sure?
Yes, because we got opportunity to be like fun with it. Say it loud. I'm plus and I'm proud. It was preliminary. I did not do that on final.
You didn't do that. You didn't. It was very elegant, but
I don't have I have no rhythm. Okay.
So I'm gonna go to the next question. And so now we're kind of at the in-between. And I guess, and this is kind of a big question, but you can decide what direction you want it to go. But after MPA, after crowning your successor, where did kind of life take you? Like, what was in the cards next for Evelyn E after you gave up your title?
I think, like I mentioned, I was really just wanting to make sure I follow God's voice in that journey. And so having that reign, giving up that title was awesome. I think I wanted to, get a taste of modeling. That has always been a dream of mine. So if anybody watching and they want to sign me, I'm ready. But I've always wanted to do that and get a taste of that. And so I got the opportunity to be in some fashion shows, a lot of charity fashion shows, which is awesome. Doing some work for Lane Bryant, which was really, really cool. So that gave me that taste of that pleasure piece in terms of the modeling and the beauty world. But then there's a part of me that I was ready to settle down and start the family thing, right? I already went to college, I got my master's degree, and now it's let's check this next thing off this box, right? Of get married, Cinderella, that's what she wanted, the fairy tale. You find your Prince Charming and you live happily ever. That's it, right? So got married and then decided to move to Florida and, just live life. And that was a season. No longer married now. I'm divorced. And so just thankful for those opportunities to grow, to learn about who I am, learn about myself. So that is really a big focus of this in between, is just me growing up a little bit, me learning hard lessons, some harder than others, some easier. Really trying to embrace them and help shape me so that as I move forward, I can just be the best version of me. So that's really what's kind of my kind of flow and next step. So, but in regards to you, here's what I'm curious. So after your reign, so we move forward. I know that you are an amazing entrepreneur, you are a mother, you are someone's daughter, all those cool things. And so what was it like, right? So what was it like juggling motherhood, pageantry, career, all of those things at the same time?
Whew. Well, one thing that I learned very quickly, and actually my platform when I was Miss Washington plus America was single parents and empowering, or single parents achieving confidence in that. And my biggest thing was called incorporation. And rather than trying to juggle, I blended. I included my children in everything. They went with me to pageants. They, came with me where they could travel to. And I really just blended everything that was important to me in my life together. That wasn't that, because I think even as women, like, we're told that we have to choose, right? Like, oh, okay, you're gonna be a homemaker now. Now you're gonna be a wife, and then you're gonna have to raise your kids. And then when you're 60, you finally get to do you. Like, no, I'm not doing that. And I can thank my mom for that, because she was a stay-at-home mother. She owned a sewing business. She was working on her master's. She was teaching us our ABCs and being a loving wife and cooking every night. And so I didn't really see anything different. So I'm like, oh, I can do everything. Like, I don't have to actually choose. Whereas, like I said, and a lot of people are one-dimensional, where they only do like one thing during this time. And so I don't know anything about that. And as a result, that was kind of how I was able to, it wasn't really juggling. It was just kind of living and doing it. And, hey, kids, okay, this is what we're going to do. Really? Okay, cool, mom, and it was, I think, it was important that I did that, because I never wanted my children to feel like I was choosing the pageant life or modeling or anything over them. So I always involved them in everything that I could involve them in. And so it made it not super challenging. I would say, the challenging part of the pageant world was when I decided I was going to go from in front of the scenes as a queen to behind the scenes. And kind of my next steps were, I was like, I want this opportunity for everybody, especially in Washington State, where it's about, like, everything's green and Birkenstocks and technology, and it's like 7% Black people. I mean, and so I was like, and curves, what? So I was really excited to bring this concept and principle and door of opportunity for women of size to the Northwest. So I became a franchise director, and my first year was amazing. I actually got contacted by MTV, and they wanted to, like, do a reality show on my pageant, and I was like, oh my gosh. I kind of got to see how mean I can be, but but I'm serious. I'm serious about this life, right? And so getting opportunities to other people was a big, big part of my in between. But not realizing necessarily that maybe I wasn't, not that I wasn't ready, I was good at it, but because of just things that I was needed to heal in Tasha, I found out that just like sports were kind of a cover up, so were all these other exploits in this industry to kind of distract me from the things that inwardly I needed to heal from. So, but that other, basically, like, opening up doors of opportunity for other people and raising my children, like, it was, that just came natural to me, but it also allowed me to deflect from myself at the same time.
Well, you seem to do it so effortlessly. So that's amazing that you blended that in. That's really cool, because so many people would just, like, set that to the side. So I don't have kids, so I don't get it, but, like, I love that. So shout out to you as a mom for that. Awesome.
So for you,
what you got for me? What you got for me?
I got you. So I want to know, and you kind of went over them a little bit, but I want to know specifically, if you feel comfortable, like, what are in the in-between time, like, what are some of the challenges that you face, and kind of how did you walk your way through them, or get, work through them?
I think probably some of the challenges was definitely, just juggling life in general. Like I mentioned, I did get married, and so I love relationships. Like, I love them, and so I tend to pour myself into them. And what happens is I get lost a little bit and I lose me. And so that was hard because I felt myself drifting away from the things that I loved. So, I was still into sports because at the time, my ex-husband was a college athlete, he did coaching. And so I wanted to pour myself into his world. And I lost myself a little bit in that. So no regrets in regards to that, but it definitely took me the time to understand Evelyn a little bit more and like who she was and like how she wanted to be shaped and how she wanted to who she wanted to be in the world. And so that would probably be some of the challenges. Another challenge I think about wanting to break into the industry of modeling. That's always been a dream, right? But I've always found myself in this, my size is as such that like I'm not a size 8 or a size like 4. And so there's a certain industry that says, oh, you might be cute, but like you don't fit there. And then as I work to like embrace and be in the plus size industry, you'll be surprised. And I think you touched on this a little bit, is like, you're plus size, what, where? And I'm like, but I am. So it's like this, I've had this struggle and this tug between, there's a group of people who don't accept me for my size, and then this other group who I want to fit in, they say I don't qualify. And it's like, where do I fit, right? Who am I, right? And so just been fighting through that ultimately to changing my own narrative, right? Defining what beauty means to me, my platform being the change. So really, really taking that from an internal perspective as I work to come back through and to change the narrative of a lot of stuff. So those are probably some of the struggles for sure that I've had to navigate through.
So if I can just do a little question to that, what did you practically do to change that narrative? I mean, that is a great phrase, but like, what does that mean? And what did you actually do to do that?
I think it was more just self-talk, right? It was allowing myself to understand that I control the narrative in my head, right? And that beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And so one person can think I'm beautiful, and the next person can think I'm ugly, and that's okay, right? Because it's all about how I defined it for myself. And so once I got to that point, it was almost like liberating. It was like I held the key to this place where I was stuck. And once I found that hook of let me define this, then I didn't have the pressures of outside people and allowing outside concepts to define me. So I would say 90% of that was mental work and pushing through and creating that definition that truly fit who I was. So, and I'm still working on it. I'm still processing it and learning about Evelyn. So no, good stuff. All right, here's my other question. You touched on one of my questions and talking about, somebody to help push you. You talked a lot about your mom. By the way, I still have that book, Girlfriends Don't Matter. Please let her know. And I still have it with her like signature and autograph. I love it. But anyway, so I know she is like definitely influencer and shaper for you. And so, that's awesome. But in taking that understanding of, her, is there other people that you felt like, have helped and shaped and influenced you? And I'm going to kind of tag it to my final question, in that, you not only are beautiful, but when I look at you, not only do I see that beauty, but I see a woman who is bold, and I see a woman who is courageous, and I see a woman who has overcome, and like this amazing comeback queen that has triumphed over so much. And so I guess in addition to other people who may have pushed and shaped you, what are some of those like life lessons in between, some of those comeback lessons that you've learned that help shape you into where you are at this point in your life?
If I could quantify it in a person, it would actually be my father. He was probably one of the most humble men. I mean, my father was 6'9", handsome, college degree, played, basketball, even was drafted to the NBA, but the most humble, loving guy. And although not perfect, but if he was wrong, and he would ask for forgiveness, he would make things right. He would, go to, counseling. He had accountability friends since he's known since, 8th grade that he was accountable to. So he really set an example on how to really lead a transparent and ever healing life. And it's really those things that I started to tap into. During my in-between, I actually went about 2.5 years ago. I honestly, just real with you, I was suicidal. I just didn't want to do this thing called life anymore. I had made so many mistakes. I felt like I never got married and I was a single mom and all these things just were failing. And I helped other people kind of get their dreams, but I never got to my dream. And while trying to help people, I was getting my name ran through the mud. I mean, it was just so many things. And I was like, I just don't want to be here. I think I'd rather be in heaven with my dad, my brother, and I have an unborn child up there. Like, I think that, walking on streets of gold sounds about right, And I remember in that moment that I was going to do that, my father's face appeared to me and he literally was like, Tasha, if you do this, you're going to go to hell. Now, I don't know if this is true. I'm not trying to get into a theological debate, but I was enough to make me like step down off the pier and get help, because I was like, I definitely don't want to burn for the rest of my life, but I also don't like this life here. So what can I do? And I enrolled myself in a outpatient mental health program and just really started working on myself. Honestly, Eve, like I look at myself like a building, and right now I'm a 39-story building. Right at the time I started, with a 36-story building. And I had to start from the beginning of the first trauma, which was at the 5th floor. And so working comprehensively through all those things, and it really began to illuminate in me like why I operate certain ways. Or, I mean, I even had narcissistic tendencies, and I had all these things, and, trying to always be the best because I grew up in a results-oriented household. And, it was like all these things I had to work through and figure out. And then ultimately I found out I really didn't value Tasha. Like people would look at me and be like, oh my God, you're so beautiful. And you've done this, you've done that. But I was doing all these things for other people, providing opportunities for other people, because I didn't actually value me. I didn't feel like that energy, that investment was worth putting into Tasha because of things that she's been through and things even that I've done on my own. And so being able to work through and heal through that, and remembering how humble my father was, and even having to humble myself and make things right where I made them wrong, or even forgiving people that didn't want to be sorry. I think the hardest thing for us sometimes is healing from things when they're not sorry, when the people who hurt us are not sorry. And I finally had to be like, I can actually be okay without them being sorry, because it's not up to them. And learning to see people where they're at, and learning to see people the way God sees them. So now I see people, when they come at me crazy, I'm like, how did I hurt you? Or what's hurting you? Because ultimately, Evelyn, like I think the biggest thing I've learned in this in between is that it's not, when I say it's not about me, I mean like everything in this life, the things that happen to us, all that kind of stuff, like it's not about me. Everyone else is hurting and going through something too. And my father, although he did not originate this phrase, but he said, hurt people, Tasha. And I didn't want to be a hurting person anymore, and I didn't want to hurt other people or even myself. So I will digress. I'm very passionate about this. That I'm kind of in the upswing of this, and I've been very transparent about my journey, and it's explained a lot to me. And I'm just kind of like, if I'm hurting, I'm honest about it. I still see my therapist. I still talk to my therapist when we're in COVID-19. So I do virtual or online phone appointments, therapy appointments, because I have to stay accountable. I have to stay on task. And, I used a lot of things. I randomly started drinking at 33. That was weird. I had never drank before, and I was trying to cope. And, it led me to a lot of bad decisions and mistakes. So I'm, excited to be celebrating, sobriety and all these other things. So it's like, life really has happened to me in between, but I love, the woman that I've come out to be. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. And you said so many things. And so I want to, the counselor in me wants to just really commend you for pushing through that, because it is not easy. It's very difficult. And so I appreciate your transparency as we're chatting here, and your vulnerability, because, that's the inspiration right there, because someone could look at you and see this complete package and feel like, oh, her life, this was easy. And like for you to share, no, let me let y'all really know what it was like in my struggles. And so, my heart is thankful, one, that, you did not, that you're still here and that I'm still able to chat with you and you didn't allow yourself to go down that road, and realizing that God still has purpose and can still use all our broken pieces, right? That's what I love about him so much. He's so dope in that way that he can take everything about us, because the Bible tells us that all things work together, which is the good and the bad, to make us who we are. And so I'm just, I just want to celebrate your strength, your courage in overcoming all of that stuff. So
well, thank you, psychologist Evelyn E.
Oh, you're welcome. No, seriously though, that's some tough stuff. And so, in all honesty, I appreciate you sharing that, and I'm just glad that, you felt that you have been in the process of working through all of that, because some people aren't ready, and that's really good that you have had the chance to continuously heal through some things.
Absolutely. And I, before we transition into the now portion, which I'm very excited to talk to you about and drill you about, I want to, take a moment to say, like, the process is, not always, it's funny how if we get injured as athletes, right? We have no problem going to the doctor. Oh, you injured, you tore your Achilles. Now you have to do physical therapy and you got to ice, you got to do this. We have no problem doing that. But when it comes to matters of the heart, matters of the mind, matters of the spirit, we want to be like, oh, well, I'm just going to say a little prayer, it'll be fine. Like, no. Or I'm just going to act like it didn't happen. I'm going to just throw on my makeup. I have to be strong. I'll be fine. And I did that for almost 2 decades. And I did it well. But at the same time, there were certain manifestations of the dysfunction that was there, right? There are certain decisions and certain actions and things that happened that were like, Tasha, something's not all the way together. And I wasn't all the way together. And I was hurting. And people don't understand, like, there's so many people, especially in the spotlight, people want to know, why did Kate Spade kill herself? She was a millionaire. Her persons are adorable. Because she was screaming in the middle of the road, metaphorically, and no one heard her. Because people think that being okay is monetary or it's aesthetic. And some of the most beautiful people I know hate themselves, being in the beauty industry. And so that's really kind of where my heart is. It's like, no, like I had a hashtag that was like, it's okay to not be okay. And I was like, not okay, very publicly. And I was okay with that, because people need to know that it's okay to not be okay, and to be like, hey, I need to heal, just like when you're healing from a physical injury. So anyway, I could go a million miles a minute on that. I know you're the psychologist and I'm the heartologist, so anywho, I just made up a word and it's fine, and we're gonna move on. So
Heartologist.
So a good segue into now. I just have to ask, a decade later, I don't know if you've done any in between, but I'm just asking now, what has you wanted to get on a stage again? And, and you are the Miss Plus America World. I mean, I'm like, dang, like, she's like, can we just call her Miss Galaxy of the creation of the beginning of time? And right. So since you have all of the titles in one, apparently, 2020, I love it. Tell me, like, what has you even wanting to go down this journey again a decade later?
Woo. So the title Miss Plus World America, I really kind of didn't want to go down this journey again, to be completely honest. It probably was a 2-year process decision of, do I really want to do this or not? Because I remember, the then and what all of it took, right? And so fast forward to the now, I'm like, do I want to do this, right? My life has changed so much. But as I chew on it, and as I thought about it and talked through it, God just continuously said that I need you to do this, right? And so I feel like that God has called me to this journey to compete again. I tell myself, this is my last time. I'm retiring after this. Y'all won't see me on the stage. I want to be like you I'm serious. I like being behind the scenes. It's true. Anyway, but I feel like God has just called me out of that. And, spending time and learning myself, I got down on myself a lot. After, I was divorced, it was, I lost, well, gosh, what's wrong with me, right? I lost my worth. I felt like I lost value because I allowed that external stuff to define me. So working through all of that, fast forward to now, God is just like, I have you on this journey, and focus on the journey. So as much as I'm excited, and yes, I want to win, the crown of Miss Plus World, God has something on this journey for me. And so, I'm on here, I'm out here because, I got sponsorship of this shirt, Be the Change. That's a part of my platform. Be the change you want to see in the world. And that is just so profound. So for me, it's less about, oh, I want to get up on the stage and be beautiful and smile, whatever. Whose life can I impact? Whose life does God need me to touch, and to shape and to help? That is really what this journey is about. It's less about the crown at the end, but it's more about the impact. I'm not doing this to be famous or anything like that. I just want to be effective, and I want to use everything that God has in me to glorify and please Him. So that's why I'm here now, is to do God's work. That's how I see it. And I'm excited. All right, so now you have been involved in pageantries a little longer than I have. Not much, because you act like you're that much older than me, but like whatever. But you have been exposed to just so many angles of pageantry, competing, directing, and all that cool stuff. Over the last 10 years, have you felt like you've seen the industry, the pageant industry, shift in any direction, positive or whatever the case may be? And what are those shifts that you think you've seen over those years?
Yeah, because here's the thing, what America needs and what America sees as beautiful and the industry sees has changed. Therefore, the industry has had to change with it. I think about even like the recent in the Universe organization, and how the Miss South America Universe, who is now the current Miss Universe, but her first runner-up was this beautiful like size 12 girl. And she was this close, right, to being the first curvy woman on the Miss Universe stage. The Miss Universe is like 65 years old, as far as the program is concerned. And that's just in one aspect. But I think that women are beginning to learn, like, really the tool that pageantry can be. Not just awarding scholarships, but giving you a voice from things that are really important to you. Understanding that it can actually be like a literal physical platform, like a launching pad, and valuing it beyond the reality shows like, Toddlers and Tiaras that kind of try to marginalize what pageantry is. And so I have seen that. Of course, I've seen an expansion in the plus industry. I can't all the way say necessarily how I feel about, necessarily all of the different plus pageants that I've seen. I like, though, that there are women such as yourself who are literally using their titles with intention and coming out with power and confidence. I think that the world has shaped women that are at a double-digit size, like, they need confidence, and I just gotta give them a crown. I just want them to feel. No. Okay. So I know. I just love the fact that women of size are more universally being taken more seriously, and that we are qualified to be leaders, just like a person. Matter of fact, maybe even more so than a person who's half our size, because we can, manage ourselves. But again, and we better represent. There are more women in America outside of even my skin tone that look like me, that are mothers, that have all these multifaceted life things, than there are that don't. And so I think the development of, I believe there's about 2,700 registered pageants, and then of course all the ones that aren't federally trademarked pageants. And don't ask why I know that, Evelyn, I can see your face. And so, and representing every demographic. If you're 80 and you want to do a pageant, if you are Miss Corporate America, I saw a Miss Doctorate, like, that's getting started. There's so many options to celebrate the different things in women's lives, and to elevate new opportunities. So I like that part of it, and I like that the plus pageant industry is gearing more towards not trying to build confidence in the poor big people, but actually that we are confident and we're okay. Like, I don't feel any less anything than the Barbie next to me at all. I don't feel any less qualified. Matter of fact, I feel more qualified. So I'm going to be able to resonate and reach more people because I'm a normal person. They're not normal, but you know what I'm saying. So I like that. And I'm excited to kind of be a part of that as well. The reason why I say that is the system that I'm competing in, the Curve division is a newer division for them. It's about 2 years old. And it's a 30-year-old pageant, one of the most prestigious internationally. And nobody, so there's a couple things here. One, they, as far as like international or even United States winners, have never been brown. So that's a big thing. And then also, of course, if I win this, title, I would be the first person to actually compete and win the title of Curve US of A. So it would just be really like a double history maker for the pageant itself. And, I think that's great. They're open to that. And that shows evolution as well, because I was nervous at first looking at the system, like, they're all skinny. They're all these beautiful, exotic, like Argentinian, Russian, like, because it's the globe. It literally is the globe, And I'm like, okay, I'm brown and I'm big. So my friend, and I was intimidated. And so I'm really, I just love that systems are opening up. And then even as a couple years or last year, where all of the major title holders in America were Black. Mrs. America, which she didn't get a lot of limelight, but Mrs. America, the current Mrs. America, which is Black, Miss America was Black, Miss Universe was Black, Miss USA is Black, Miss Teen USA is Black. Like, that was like a huge deal, especially in the America system when they didn't even allow Black people to compete until 1961. So, 1971, I'm sorry. So, I think a lot of good things are happening in the industry, and it's opening doors for people like you and I, for brown girls and brown women, and women in general, to use it as a launching pad to really affect change in the world. And I always say, I'll end with this, Evelyn, where they say, politicians and pastors are the most influential, but I say there's a third P, and it's called pageantry.
I love that. Write that down. That's awesome. Y'all heard that? That was what's up.
Don't be trying to take it. Talking about say it loud. I'm just kidding.
Oh my goodness! Like, you're bringing back so many memories with that. Like, I mean, I'm silly. I can't help it. Awesome. What you got for me? You got something for me? You got any more questions?
Okay, so see here, and then so I would like to know why you chose the system that you chose specifically, because you as a psychologist, I'm sure you think everything out metacognitively. So I want to know, why did you? Yes, I used a big word. Are you proud of me? Metacognitive. Yes, us non-psych majors.
Now let's define it, and you already used it in this sentence. So okay, I'm good. Great question. I think a big reason why I chose that system. So you touched on it when we were talking a little bit earlier about Miss Nanette and who she is, and so when I heard about the development and the creation of Miss Plus World and what Miss Nanette and Constance were doing, I love those human beings to the core, and so just knowing their heart and their vision is what really drew me to that particular pageant system. And then, just thinking about, I've had, relationships, in Miss Plus America pageant with Miss Annette. And so her always just have been an encourager, right? And, and influence her. And so I just felt like it was the right opportunity and the right time for me as I decided to, okay, if I want to do one more, I'm still curvy. So why not? I felt like it was a seed that is growing in great hands. And so, I'm excited to represent America. I'm excited as I think about the journey and the possibility of being in an international pageant. That is super exciting. So taking it up, one more level. So I did a pageant when I was a kid. I did it at mid-age. I guess I can.
Honey Queen. Hey.
Look at you. That's right. Honey Queen. Okay. Yes, and then Miss Plus America Italy, and so now an international pageant, and I'm hopeful it's like the trifecta, right? This is my third one, and so to God be the glory in it. But just the vision, of Miss Plus World and putting that platform, celebrating women from all across the nations, and giving them that platform to share and celebrating that humanitarianism in them, being that servant. Queen can't be a queen. It's not about the crown. It's about that service. And so there's a lot of emphasis on that service and that humanitarian piece that I love so much about the Miss Plus World pageant system. And so those are probably, to name a few, some of the things on why I chose that particular pageant system. So I'm excited.
You're just so deep. I mean, you're so much deeper than me. You're like, it's not about the crown. I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to get that crown. It has this piece right here. Like, it's not about, being on stage. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to walk that stage again. Make me look like I'm a heathen. Thank you, Bishop.
I'm excited about those things too.
No, it's fine. It's okay.
When I think about the things and thinking back that were the most memorable, of course, I remember my crowning moment before, but it was like those connections that I made on that journey. That is what I hold on to. That is what is enriching. And so that's what I think about the most when I think about this next last journey. Because I saw your face when I said this was the last one.
Yeah, because I don't believe you. I 100% don't believe you. And you made me feel like I'm a heathen because all the things, I'm like, dang, did I like the people on the journey? I'm just kidding.
Stop that. You're so silly.
No, actually, I have friends for life through it, definitely. But I 100% wasn't thinking as deep as you are. I'm honestly thinking about my custom gown and like how I'm about to be like, yes. And it does feel good. I mean, I guess maybe it's because, Evelyn, the difference between you and I might be that I didn't really value myself, shockingly enough, contrary to what people may believe. And so now that I do, I kind of wanted to show that off, not just in the natural, but even in the spiritual, and have that opportunity to do that. So maybe that's what it is. So you can be this really spiritual one, and I'll be the like, yeah, crowns and glamour.
Or the piece of it is, it's not that I had that confidence. And it's so funny that people think like, oh, you probably have just been so confident. No, I didn't believe that. But once, like I said, it clicked and I felt it. For me, I just want other people to realize it. I want other people to start redefining beauty for themselves and not being stuck by these definitions. And so for me, who can help liberate? Because it's bigger than these external forces trying to like this robot and control us. And so I think that's a big part that pushes me. So
it's deep.
So silly. Okay. Couple more questions. We're in the home stretch here. So you talked about all these, these changes in the pageant. You talked about just different levels of competition. If you could go back to your younger competitive self, what would you say to her? What words of advice, thinking about everything that you've learned, everything that you know now, what would you want to say and whisper in her ear?
Well, unfortunately, it wouldn't be a whisper. I would probably slap myself hard. And then I would say, first of all, you don't know everything. You're not all that. You're not any of that stuff. Matter of fact, you are broken like everybody else. So you need to stay humble and remember who remember not just who you are, but whose you are. And I think I would just kind of how I felt about when I, like 3-4 years ago, I had this like basketball comeback. I played basketball in junior college with like people that could be my children. It's a long story. It was amazing. My kids thought it was cool, and that was, yeah. But anywho,
you have a jump shot?
Yes, girl, I did. I was going back for my human services degree, and I decided, and they asked me if I'd walk onto the team, and I was 35, the oldest person in that Northwest Administrative Conference. And they're like, hey, aren't you Isaiah's mom? I'm like, no, I'm your teammate, Do you have a Band-Aid? Yeah. So anyway, but it was amazing. I went from only being able to play for 70 seconds down to 7 minutes. So that was great. But anywho, but but even in that moment, I wish I would have had the mental that I had now in the body I had in my college basketball years. I would have been a beast if I didn't let people get in my head. So I think the biggest thing would be like, first of all, you ain't all that, Tasha. You're not the only well-spoken, curvy, whatever, and I think subconsciously I thought that because I felt like a failure in other areas of my life. And Tasha, be you. Don't feel like you have to warp in anything else or explain yourself, and just be really your authentic self. Not saying that 10 years ago was a lie, but it's just I was operating on the surface. And so just digging deeper, digging into my roots at a younger age. But again, I was taught to kind of, not taught, but just subconsciously to sweep things under the rug, right? And that's how a lot of us do, especially people of color. We are the king. We have levitating rugs with dirt we swept underneath it. And just kind of like, no, like clear all that out and then go and do and be what you're passionate about. I think that would have been, so I probably would have done some things in reverse, still done them, but done them in reverse. But it's never too late. And I'm about to be that big 4-0 and I can do it now.
So I'm actually going to jump ahead of you and tie my last question for you to that, because I think it's a perfect segue. So you said all of that, which is awesome. Now, fast forward 10 years from now, when you look back on your time right now, what is it that you want to say? What is it that you want to accomplish? And who is it that you want to become and shape, yourself into? And what do you want, as much as we can't, listen to everybody's narrative, but what is the legacy of Tasha in this new time frame when you look back at yourself on this time 10 years from now?
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is thank the 40-year-old Tasha. Tasha, thank you for doing the work. Thank you for stepping away from the spotlight and all the extra for 2.5, 3 years to heal and get yourself together. Did you want to walk for the rest of your life with a metaphorical limp, or did you want to get that leg straightened out, right? And so I would thank myself I'm pretty sure I will. But I do know over these next 10 years that I'm doing a shift where I've spent a lot of the last 20 years just focusing and providing opportunities and doing this stuff for other people, whether it's events or pageants or coaching or this or that. It was always other people and never for Tasha. And so now I'm in a very selfish, yes, I said it, selfish, unapologetically selfish season of life, where when I'm 60, so I look at my mother who is very attractive and doing her thing at 60, and I would like to have the freedom to be able to do that as well. And to be able to look at these last 10 years and say, Tasha, you did some life for you, that you did what you want to do. You were okay with who you were. You finally liked yourself and you enjoyed it. Okay. So if my exploits are going to be, me as an individual, yes, I do believe that they're going to residually impact others. I do want to inspire other people, but not at my own expense, right? So before it was like me sacrificing Tasha's reputation and my feelings and my time and my energy and my money to help other people. And in some ways it was a benefit, in other ways it backfired. One, because I probably wasn't all the way equipped for that mentally, but two, it just, so now I feel like, okay, it's your turn, Tasha. It's your turn to put yourself on a pedestal. And in no way is that pride. Because I do believe that, obviously, a haughty spirit comes before a fall. But there's nothing wrong with after, when David said, Lord, created me a clean heart, renew a right spirit within me. He was still David. He still wrote the Psalms. He was still a king. He still was a huge person in God's mission on this planet. So, I'm feeling okay with it just being about me. I've raised 2 adult sons. I still have a 5-year-old that I love, and I co-parent, with him, so I don't have him full time. And, I'm literally doing me. So people are like, oh, do you? No, like really, I'm actually doing it. And it feels great. And I love doing it at 40. I love being 40. I love it. I'm like, oh, I get to look at young girls and be like, really?
So I'm excited. I'm coming. I'm catching up with you.
I love being in a different realm. I love being able to talk so candidly. Tasha, so yeah, actually I did do that. It was wrong. I'm a different person now. So are we staying in the past or are we moving forward? Like I like to be able to have those conversations because I can. And it's just a really wonderful place to be. Do you have another question for me? Because if you don't, I wanted to quickly say why I chose the Curve Globe competition is because their partner organization is the WIN Foundation. which is Women in Need. And she literally, the founder of it focuses on, healing from like being a victim of a narcissist or even from brokenness and going into like true self-love. And what I love about her program is it's practical implementation, not just like, oh, love yourself, love the skin you're in. Woo. No, like actual, I'm sorry, I hate cliches. But like actually really doing practical steps to healing. And I've kind of already been on that journey. So this is a great parallel for me to kind of icing on the cake. And it really just aligns with where I'm at now. And I want to see people really actually whole. Like I really do. Not at my expense though, because I'm not responsible for your healing and I won't ever be again. But I want to be able to hopefully be that in action leader that can do that. And show people how to do that and have those type of conversations with yourself and other people and hold yourself accountable. So I'm excited to be an ambassador for the WIN Foundation because it's like my life, like literally in a crown. Like I love that. And I'm excited to be that on top of all the other stuff that I said that I wanted to do that wasn't spiritual as yours. So
I just love that. That's really awesome. And so what I hear you saying is that 10 years from now, you are going to look back and see all this healing that is continuously taking place, not only in you, but empowering others to do that work. And so that's like,
I get to I'll be able to enjoy life 10 years from now because I've done the work that I'm doing now. And the older we get, it's harder and it's humbling, honestly, Eve. It's like, oh, I'm grown. And no, it's us grown people who are the most messed up. Even in the word, it says, be like little children. Jesus was like, suffer the kids to come unto me because you're on my nerves. Like, he didn't even like dealing with adults, okay? Because the hearts of children were just of learning and of cleaning and that's just the place that I'm in right now. I'm a big sponge. I've always been the person that has provided the stuff that people soak up, but now I'm the sponge and it feels good and I love it. And I could cry just because of how liberated I feel and it's safe and it's good. So
that's good. It reminds me of my Be the Change is a part of my platform, and Gandhi, and one of his things that he says is that my life is my message, is my mission. And so that is what I see you exuding and strategically trying to do, not only for yourself, for others. So I salute you, love.
Well, thank you. So my closing question for you is, and you've shared so many good things and so many nuggets, but I want you to speak more from just a very like intrinsic, personal, raw, non like psychologist level. What I guess if women that are watching, women that look up to you, women that are, man, Evelyn, how do you like? What is just that raw like? You could give any like a life advice. What would that be? And just be okay to. I want to really not hear a pageant answer on this because I actually want to know too, so I can learn from it. So this is for me. It's not about you. So yeah, if you could, that would be great.
Oh my goodness. I would have to say that, the biggest advice I would give is if you got to do it, afraid, do it. There were so many things that, I convinced myself not to do. I was, the narrative in our head should be our friend and not our enemy. And I spent so much of that in between time and that middle time being the enemy in my head, as if there wasn't enough going on in this world. The Bible tells us that we fight not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and wickedness in high places. And so that's already enough. Why am I still being this narrative and speaking these negative things about who I am and allowing, my failures in life, they weren't fatal because I'm still here. And so reminding myself of that, reminding myself of who I am. And so if that's the few components and advice that I could give any woman is, if you got to do it afraid, do it. Do the things that you love, that you're passionate about. Be your best friend in your head. Like you control that narrative. Sure. Yes, make sure you're telling yourself good stuff about who you are, because there's enough people out here who could find some negative things, definitely, to say. And just, be free and be okay to if you miss the mark, the only failure is to not get up and keep trying. And that the mistakes that you make are not fatal, and they shape you into the amazing person that you are. And I leave it with kind of this thing that I remind myself, especially if I'm counseling or if I'm coaching, any individual, what I say to them is that, from a spiritual perspective, we think about God and his infinite wisdom and who he is. And he made the sun and the moon and the stars, and he made this beautiful picture in this world. And in that infinite wisdom of his, he felt that the world needed one of you. You are uniquely, fearfully, and wonderfully made, and you are designed and crafted for a purpose. And so just reminding yourself of that and who you are. Like I think you said that too, who you are and whose you are. And if you can find ways to remind yourself to get there, the journey is a tad bit easier. I ain't gonna say that it's easy, but it helps at least as a roadmap to help you navigate. So I love that question. Tasha.
Wow. I love that. Being your own best friend in your head. I love that.
Yes.
Definitely taking it. No, wow. I love that. Thank you for sharing. So just briefly, if you could share with me, like, what are I guess I know with COVID, I don't know how things are going, but what are the dates for your competition, and how can people support you if you need it, and how can they find you?
Awesome. I love that. So my competition was supposed to be in July, but God saw fit that we need to see a shift, and I look at it as an opportunity to just touch more people's lives. So I am thankful for the pause. As they say, delay is not denial. So I'm still remain focused. The pageant has shifted to February 3rd through the 6th, 2021, in Houston, Texas. So I'm excited about that. And then folks can find me. I'm definitely on Facebook, Miss Plus World America 2020. You can visit my website, evelynbailey.com. Where you can do donations and just learn all about me. So I'm excited, about that. And then I'm on Instagram and I do little TikToks here and there. I'm like a TikTok queen in my personal side life, right? But yeah, I'm on TikTok, Instagram, all that good stuff. So I welcome any followers and supporters. I love the supporters, the followers that I have now. They're just cheerleaders. I'm so thankful for y'all. And I'm just here. I want to represent America the best that I can and try to bring home the world title to this great country of ours. And so what about you? Tell me, where can folks find you? How can they connect? All that good stuff.
Well, you're amazing. And I'm okay with you representing the world, definitely. So I just want to let you know that. Anyway, so I'm also on Facebook as well, and Facebook, Instagram. You can find me at Real Tasha Haskins on either Instagram or Facebook. I do not have my own personal website, so I'm not as amazing as Evelyn, and that's okay. Although I do own my domain, so don't be trying to make websites that's money. Anyway, and then also, if you want to go to the Ms.Globe.com website / and you look under the Curve, and then you go under Washington, Ms. Washington, and you will find a site, kind of some fun Q&As, a place that you can also monetarily support me. I'm also going to do a shameless plug for my fundraiser that I have on Facebook as well, to help with any my expenses and such for the competition, which is in like 5 weeks. I'm very excited. 5 weeks and some days, I'll be in Palm Springs competing with some beautiful curvy ladies from around the world, as well as the ones whose borders are open to come here, and around the country as well, for, again, the title of Mrs. Curve US of A. And also the whole Mrs. thing is internationally recognized the same as Mr. as an equal. So it's not marital status. No, I'm not married. However, internationally as well as historically, Mrs. actually represented a woman of prestige that was educated and that was an equivalent to a Mr. So I'm excited to hopefully win, or at least vie for that title, and do well. So again, anything that you put in, if you put at Real Tasha Haskins, you will, Tasha M. Haskins, I'm sorry, you will find me. And I think that is it that I have to share. So it is, gosh, been a pleasure. Been a real pleasure.
Goodness, it's definitely been a pleasure to catch up. And so folks definitely here are watching. I'm probably gonna have to get some advice to you on some of that sponsorship and fundraising as I get a little bit closer. But I'm rooting for you. I know you're gonna do well. In your pageant, you have always just been a fierce competitor. So I love that energy that you're bringing. And for folks who are watching, if you're interested in learning more about the Miss Plus America pageant, you can definitely visit missplusamerica.com. And then of course the current pageant that I am competing, you can definitely check that out at missplus.world. And you can learn more about that amazing pageant system as well. So, Tasha, girl, it's been real. You are phenomenal. You are fierce, and you look fabulous going towards 4D. So that is amazing.
Thank you. Well, I love you. Also, you guys, please comment underneath the video to let us know, because we are potentially looking into hosting a regular podcast together. It won't be this long, obviously, but so let us know if this is something that you would love to do, and drop any topics. And you never know what could possibly be coming to a YouTube or IGTV live near you. All right.
Awesome.
Love you, sis.
Love you too. Awesome. And until next time, we're your ladies, we're your girls. Peace and love.